Lekgolo, Lesedi Kganya, I'm Lerato, I'm Gogo Kandalembube, and it's Saturday. This is going to be a hectic class. I've been meditating for the last hour whilst trying to peel a garlic with very small parts in it. So I'm going to read the Bible, and then we pray, and we start with today's class. Lebitso la Ntate la Morwa le Moahelang, amen. Ba ba bolawang ke tlala a ba baya teng yo mme ba aga motse o ba ka nnang mo go ona, ba jwala masimo, ba tlhoma ditlhare tsa mobeine, ba fula maungo, ba kotula, mme a ba tshegofatsa, ba be ba ntsifale thata. Mo ba re ba ntsifale thata, diruiwa tsa bona a seka a di fokotsa. Modimo ba boela ba fokotsega, ba kokobediwa ke bokete jwa botlhoko le khutsafalo. Amen. This is Psalm 107, verses 36 to 39. Yay! Tswana se thata le tsekeng. I told you guys I am practicing my Tswana. I hope you guys are good. It's freezing. It is so cold. Arapeleng, and then we jump into today's class. Ra yetso kwa magodimong, leina la gago le tshepisiwe, puso ya gago e tle, thata ga go dire kwa lefatsheng jaaka e dira kwa legodimong. O re fe gompieno sejo sa rona sa malatsi, o re itshwarele maleo a rona jaaka o re itshwarelela ba re leo felang. So re gogele mo thaelong mme re gole mo bošoleng, gonne mmušo ke jwa gago le maatla le kganya le kgalalelo jaanong le ka bosakhutleng. Amen. Amen. Listen, I'm practicing. So today's class is sacrifices. Like I said, I thought so hard about it today because I want to do this topic justice and I want to make it really practical. So I guess the first place to start is with Jesus. What was the whole point of him being the sacrificial lamb on the cross? Okay. I think I said it in previous, in the videos that I posted. What happened was that every time he was healing somebody, he was doing an energetic exchange, right? So his sick people were taking positive energy and dumping their negative energy onto them, right? Negative energy, we can call it in many different ways, right? Low vibrational energy, demonic energy, it doesn't matter. And he did this in stages, right? If you look at his miracles, he started with his prayer fast, where it was him who needed to become the sacrifice. He needed to become self-sacrificing, right? Where now apparently the devil put him up on the mountain of Jerusalem and said, I'll give you everything if you kneel to me, right? And by the way, this is always the precursor to sacrifice, right? All sacrifices require your consent. And at the time, Jesus Christ said, no, you shall kneel only to the Lord your God, right? And this is very important because he had made it very clear in his own life who the Lord of his people was. So he knew the father of his ancestors, right? He knew this father, the father of his ancestors, through the many years of tradition, right? And eventually through him studying Jewish law, right? But as time went on, he now converted water to wine, right? Which is a beautiful miracle in that sense that he is bringing productivity, right? So the water to wine, the bread and fish story, let's start with the water to wine. That was maybe the easiest, quote unquote, in the sense that he had 5 buckets of water, and which ended up into 5 buckets of wine. Unlike when he was feeding the crowd with just 2 fish and 5 loaves. So as Jesus Christ was learning his art, challenging himself, challenging his ascended Father, his Father in heaven, challenging the God within him, right? Challenging, putting to work what his forefathers had been doing, right? And the reason why it was so easy for Jesus, or it was right for Jesus to do it that way, was because from the time the Israelites left Egypt, God instructed them to do sacrificial offerings. So he already had the background of his tradition being applied fully, right? And from there on, that's where he was able now to ascend spiritually. Okay, I'm going to explain this in a moment. He managed to ascend spiritually and work with energy, or work with appeasing his God in a more energetic way, right? And in that sense, it's so crazy, because just the coming of Jesus and somebody applying energetic law, right, is a very big sign that even he was ahead of his time, right? Because that shows that he was preparing not just himself, but also his disciples for a time when energetic law, when mass consciousness and all your different bloodline consciousnesses would start to integrate into one another, right? And that is where he starts his work. He starts healing people, not just Jews, right? And that is the interesting part. The easy miracles was when he was around his mom, his hometown, right? And he did the 5 buckets of water and 5 buckets of wine. All right. But as he moves more out of the comfort zone of his own tribe, his own people, then our Father, his bloodline ancestor, his bloodline God, right, now starts to bend more and more rules. And he starts now to connect with those people from an energetic place, right? Our Father of Jesus's Father in heaven, knew that the people that were sick were not Jewish. So chances that they had all done the Jewish or the Israelite traditional offerings were little. So God allowed Jesus then to work with energy, to become an alchemist, to become a magician, right? If Jesus was South African, he was no longer just a traditional healer or even a prophet. Now he had moved into alchemy, okay? So every time he performed a miracle, he exchanged positive energy that he gets from his bloodline, our Father, right? From the Father of his ancestors, or from the God of his ancestors, right? And he exchanges it for negative energy from somebody else who has a God of their own ancestors, right? So he kept on doing that, going into people, different towns. That was the point. He was now starting to interact with the consciousnesses or the energies, or even badimu, babatu babangmi. That's what he was doing through the healing, right? He was actually using his God and bartering with the gods of the people that he was healing, right? Because those people, they had parents, they had grandparents, they had their own family traditions. So clearly, for whatever to have happened for these people to be sick or demonically possessed, probably those people did not follow the philosophies of their own ancestral God. And Jesus decided to step in and use the power of his forefathers to heal them. right? But this was an energetic exchange, right? Because E equals MC squared, right? And the point is that eventually Jesus started to collect so many low vibrational consciousnesses, so many low vibrational generational curses, so many low vibrational symptoms of those patients not listening to their ancestral God. So within him now, he had like a whole array of energies, right? I'm sure he did cleansings. I'm sure he did. Right? But let's say he didn't, because that's not listed. What happens was that now, through the accumulation of dark energy, dark matter, and it's not necessarily just dark matter according to his father, right? It's now dark matter even according to the ancestors of those people, because those people are sick, right? And those people have got demonic possessions, right? The one person that he chose not to emit the demons completely and do an energetic transaction with was the man who had the legion of demons, right? That legion of demons, in terms of Jesus's work, if he had not transferred those demons into the pigs, that legion of demons would have warranted his sacrifice, his death on the cross sooner. So it was a self-preservation thing, right? Okay, fast forward. Now he goes on to the cross, right? And the crowd that sends him to be killed, it looks like they are sacrificing him, the person, right? It looks like they want him, the person, the Jewish prophet, to be hung and humiliated. So the crowd understands Jesus's work now. And let me say it like this, and this is the real reason why the crowd sort of turned against him, right? With the accumulation of dark matter, and you guys, spiritual people, know this. As you accumulate dark matter, whether it's from your own bloodline or from your own actions or from the actions of others, right? As you do that, you become repulsive to people, right? You become repulsive because the higher up overall joint consciousness knows only well-being, knows only health and wealth. And when you, the person, are not in alignment with that, meaning that super being, the God, I spoke about how the one Holy Spirit God is like ESCOM or a bunch of cables, right? That the overall universal energies know only well-being. And when in your life there isn't well-being in your physical body, right, then the universal energies sort of direct the problem, your problem, to our Father, to the God of your ancestors, right? And the God of your ancestors refers back to, let's call it the Holy Spirit, or the one God, as we want to believe in, right? The God of your forefathers comes back, speaks to the one God, who is the collective consciousness. And the collective consciousness makes a declaration into itself. If you guys ever believe in a heaven, it's like Luchodimo now makes a decision, right? Luchodimo, even people that are not your ancestors, right? Because Luchodimo knows only well-being. So Jesus Christ now became repulsive, right? Topic is sacrificial lamb. Jesus Christ became repulsive to those people. And to them, it looked like a humiliation ritual where they needed to strip him bare and humiliate him, right? It looked like that's what it was. They probably could not understand. But let me say it like this. Most of the time, people who put people through humiliation rituals are because those people were inferior to the light of that person to begin with. Right? So Jesus's work, on the other hand, as he was healing, it was putting shame within these people as individuals and within the high priests, right? That how could it be that despite their knowledge, they hadn't reached that level of mastery, right? And that's where the humiliation ritual on their end came from. Their motivation was their shame. Their motivation was their shame. And that is why they would always refer to Abraham and Moses, right? Their motivation was trying to keep things as they are, as the tradition, right? But eventually he ends up on the cross. So the traditional people, the Pharisees, are motivated by their own shame, that they cannot do what he did. And I'm going to piece this together and how this applies in your own lives. However, on Jesus' side, the motivation the modus operandi of why he needed to go and die was so that he can now leverage off of all of this dark matter. All right. This was his ultimate cleansing. So there he gets hung on the cross, right? The people who have got shame, they get their satisfaction, right? He becomes the ultimate sacrifice according to them, right? Where he is physically killed. But this is the difference. He actually, before he dies, says, or even from the day he comes, that I'm not going to get sacrificed. I'm going to give myself over to be sacrificed. Right? So here's the scripture, right? For God loved the world so much that he gave his only begotten son, that whoever that believes in him shall not perish, but have eternal life. Let me tell you, that scripture speaks to the world, for God loved the world. The world were the people that he healed in his time, from different bloodlines, from different consciousnesses, right? And that world, the energies around the sick patients, right, stood to benefit, and so did those bloodlines, right? Because he was interrupting whatever the curse in those bloodlines was. So the world is not as we see the world like we see mass consciousness, right? It can be, it could have been, if Runabatontu were there, right? But at the end of the day, it's immaterial, right? Jesus then, according to that scripture, he goes on the cross, gets bruised, beaten, blah, 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 blah. Humiliation ritual, that side, right? That's the only way for the traditional side of his bloodlines or his people, the Jews. His death was the only way for the traditional side of his tribe to be able to reevaluate itself. Because it was only through his death then that the Pharisees and the high priests had to sit down and sort of deal with what is law really, right? All along, it was easier to antagonize him because it looked like he wasn't applying law, except they don't realize that he twisted the law, went on, fast forward, and decided to make applications of the law in a different way, right? Just like what you guys do from traditional healing to sporofeto, right? To becoming what you guys call mediums. It's the same thing. So then he dies. They get to reflect. He gets to go through all the stages of grief on behalf of all this dark matter sitting within him, and eventually he gives up moya wa gagwe, right? The dark matter And this is what people don't know. That is what the 3-day death was about. Because Jesus chose and said that he is offering himself to die, right? The way that he's saying, I'm offering myself to die, that meant that he had already integrated those people's demons and foreign cultures and foreign ancestors into himself. And during the 3-day period of his death, again, it says he went to hell. He spent time with these entities, right? Because everything in the spirit world is as above, so below, right? Even entities that you guys call dark matter or primitive. Because in essence, if you think about it, his patients were sick because they didn't listen to the traditions of their forefathers. So what Jesus calls hell, or what the Bible calls hell, was Jesus sitting, not only applying the knowledge of our Father, his highest ancestor, but now bartering and connecting with other people's ancestors by making them, by requesting them to give him nuggets of matter, of light. It does happen because anything, wherever you heal, and healers know this as well, right? Whenever you heal a person, that person's ancestors, whether it is in the form of financial money, a currency, there needs to be a transfer of energy so that the healing happens from a spiritual place, right? So that the bloodline that is no longer living, right, doesn't have to worry about the generational curse of so-and-so being a witch. So you're absolutely right. It was a spiritual bank. And what he did now was now speaking to those people's ascended our fathers and saying, but you all owe me. And I've been waiting for my payout. So him dying was him deferring, collecting as many dark earthly consciousnesses as possible as leverage, right? And once he got that leverage, now he was able to barter with energies that were outside of his ancestral God, right? And those energies, as part of a ritual of giving thanks, the highest consciousness knows only well-being, right? As above, so below. Energy must always transfer. It can never be destroyed. It must change form, right? And as part of that, those dark entities, those demonic, those sicknesses, the ancestries, the consciousnesses behind them, they owed him like an energy boost, an energy ball. That's what he was doing for 3 days, right? That's what he was doing for 3 days. I'm going to get someone to read a particular scripture. It's going to be very interesting, and I want to talk to somebody about that and this resurrection and the 3-day story, right? But anyway, that's what happens with Jesus. When he resurrects, it was no longer the job of our Father. And that is why when he died, the quote unquote, his Father was quiet and it turned dark. His Father now had ceded him over to the consciousnesses that he had chosen to work with. As servitude to his own ancestry, he had already glorified the name of Idlozi like, of Sidimu Sakwabona, of Sidimu Sakhari. He'd already glorified Sidimu Sakwabone by managing to take on and expand his bloodline, his DNA, to a point that it could collect energies, dark, filthy, sick energies from other bloodlines. So at the moment of the cross, his ancestral father needed to say nothing. Jesus actually, at the moment of his death, was almost equated, if not above, to his own ancestor. He managed to create the highest form of ascension by bartering and taking on all that burden and that sickness. right? So he used it as leverage. And at that point, his ancestral father had nothing to add, because your ancestral father, the God in you, is going to speak to you regarding the things in your life, right, that are going to benefit you. But the God in you will never refuse when you choose to help somebody else. Why? Because the broader consciousness believes only in well-being and love. So it was not even his God's choice, right? It may have been his God's choice for him to be initiated, to learn, to become who he became, right? But the inevitable choice to die was something that he went into as like a final step. And by doing that, Jesus managed to hang on and touch and connect with more than his own God. Because now he had those people's ancestors bartering back and giving him his flowers. Why? Their own descendants, those other consciousnesses, those other ancestors, their own descendants not only could not achieve their own alignment with their own ancestors or with their own God, not only could they not achieve that, but their lives had deviated so far away from their Our Father philosophy. This goes back to the African wound. Their lives had deviated so far away that their Our Fathers, their highest ascended ancestor, was not able to reach them. And that's how you get sick, right? So now that's how Jesus manages to basically get his 3 days, and he resurrects, right? After that resurrection, it made absolutely no sense, right? I'm going to speak about praying to Jesus. After that resurrection, it made absolutely no sense for him to be here. It made no sense. Not only had he done his dlozi good, very good, right? But at the same time, he had even shaken up the religion, Judaism. He had shaken up the religion, right? And he was indirectly trying to force his own people, the Jews, he was indirectly trying to force them to really adjust the Abrahamic laws and the Mosaic laws, right? I don't know how they managed to still pull those laws up in the Old Testament. But part of his death and part of the humiliation ritual by the Pharisees was to make them reflect, right? But anyway, so he's done two things. On earth here with his own people, he's forced them to reflect, right, on what these offerings really are for. And with those that he healed, he has bartered with their ancestors, done his own dlozi proud, and now he can buzz off, right? So now this brings us to us. This brings us to us. I'm going to answer what Gogo asked me. Is praying to Jesus powerful? Praying to Jesus is powerful when in your life you feel there's a need for justice. Remember now, the point of Jesus is to show the difference between well-being and sickness, right? That is the whole, he did that both as he dies. He made them reflect forcefully, right? And he made them heal without even knowing the force behind their healing, right? So praying to Jesus is important only in two instances. When you in your life feel that you need justice, and I'm going to talk about the situations of justice because most of the time you've been sacrificed yourself. When you feel that you have been done wrong and you cannot find the connection to your own Our Father, to your own ascended or higher power within you, than summoning a medium like Jesus, because he was eventually an alchemist. That's what he did, right? That whole death period, that's what he did. Even when he was healing people, he was now using magic, right? And so when you feel you need justice or a sense, it's funny because it's a consciousness thing. Praying in the name of Jesus is only summoning a certain consciousness. It's not even the person. It's not even the person. The person who lived, died, may not have been born by Virgin Mary. We don't know. Right? May not have ascended. We don't know. Point is, there was a person who lived and died. So you are actually summoning up a consciousness, right? A consciousness that already gave itself up to its own internal world, the world of its people, the world of its Jews, and even the world of, like, the spirit world of other people's ancestors. So when you make a calling to him, you're actually saying, I need somebody. And that's why he says that he becomes an intercessor for you guys, right? He becomes an intercessor when you feel injustice. I'm going to take can we do a short pause? I don't want to run away with my thoughts. I want to come back to us people. Jesu utlokofets. We, right? I want to come back to us. I'm going to take a 2-minute break and then that's it. Or do you guys want me to end the live? I think the breaks are so annoying to watch on YouTube, honestly speaking. I think they are so annoying to watch. Right? I think they are totally annoying to watch. Should I take a break and not end the live completely? Okay. Break done. Pausing live. All right, I'm back. How does this affect you guys? Let's define what a sacrifice is. A sacrifice is any situation. It's typically a situation, right? It's typically a situation that compromises one person to the benefit of another. That's what a sacrifice is. Actually, if you were to look at I think it's commercial law. That is the same definition for theft. So a sacrifice is energy theft, right? Earlier on, even in the Bible, God asked Abraham to sacrifice Isaac. The point of that was to highlight the results of what a sacrifice does, right? When you guys are raised up in your homes, whatever scenario that your parents have aligned themselves to in their marriage or non-marriage or divorce, whatever dynamic that your ancestry or your parents subscribe to, whether it is in alignment with their ancestry or not, that determines whether you are sacrificed or not. So a lot of you guys get sacrificed initially when you're very young. How? You guys are made to be quiet, right? You guys are taught manners. These are very small sacrificial practices, right? But these practices are integrated in our society. We call it civilization, right? Where we teach children to self-sacrifice, to not do what they want or what they feel to do, but to do what the next person wants. And how do we do this? We give our children hidings. We give them all sorts of things, right? And if you really think about it, this is not, I'm a mom too. So this was something that took me a long time to come to grips with. The real reason why we have got issues or issues where we want to enforce our authority on our kids is because we feel so out of control. We've been sacrificed and compromised so much that now we are spiritually sick. So every child, this is where now you are taught to self-sacrifice, right? This is like a systematic thing. Over the years, slowly, you are taught to give to others what you cannot give for yourself. And it is unfortunate because these are also practices that came with the oppressor who's actually oppressed, right? Visitors get to have the special whatever treatment. Muruti gets the special treatment. Whoever gets the children sit on the ground. Remember, if you guys think about some of your grandparents, your parents, probably because of poverty, that was a form of sacrifice, right? The oppressor needed to make the sacrifice on the people, the oppressed. He needed to do it in a brutal way. So I'm going to say it now in our individual lives, right? You learn to eventually self-sacrifice. Probably around 15, 16, that self-sacrifice cycle is so functional that now you are open and you are energetically leaking, right? It's like now you've opened so many portals to dark entities, to energy vampires, right? And in some cases, the energy vampires are your parents, right? The energy vampires are where you come from. Now there's so many portals open because your auric field is no longer closed. It's no longer holy. It's no longer healed. It has been disintegrating over the years. By the time you meet whoever that you meet, be it a partner, be it a family member, right? Be it a partner, be it whoever, a friend. By the time you meet the next person, They have also been sacrificed in many different ways. The degree to which a child is sacrificed psychologically and emotionally will determine how they will integrate as an adult. The more a child has been sacrificed, put in their place, mistreated, neglected, the more likely, the more potent the dark energy that they will be attracted to. Just like the story of Jesus. He was so light, he eventually decided to collect demons, right? And so that the sacrifice must happen, right? This dark portal that is now opened in your life, it will run and have its own cycle if nobody interrupts it, right? Especially because our parents and our grandparents were very secretive about spirituality, right? So you get into the world completely black naked, completely bare, and you try to interact on a friendly level with people because the world tells you not to be an asshole, right? But the bloodlines that know their spiritual worth are asshole bloodlines, right? But in general, where a bloodline chooses to fade or ignore their spirituality, and their spirituality doesn't need to be in the traditional sense. It could be in a prophetic sense. It doesn't matter, right? When there isn't a guardian or a custodian of the spiritual information of your bloodline, then as part of the curse that the ignorant people, they create sacrifices out of their children, and those children go out and get sacrificed in the world. So this is how it works. This is how a sacrifice works. You meet girl A, no, let's make it about bomkhulu. Karhona mkhulu mong last week you itse I kerate banna. Let's talk about men. Let me give a man's example. All right. A boy grows up. Whatever the situation with his father. Maybe his father was very influential, right? Maybe his father tried to integrate him. Maybe his father was not a bad person. Maybe even his father tried, to practice traditional law, right? But that boy is more likely to survive. That boy, as he grows into a man, his relationship with his father seems like it is stable, right? Because dad is there and dad is doing what dads are supposed to be doing. However, most of the time, that boy with a present father who's practicing spirituality and he's doing great, he's working, and he's disciplining as he should, no problem. That boy, most of the time, right? And it's so funny because that's how energy works. That boy normally would now unintentionally look to the energy of his mom. If his mom is a strong woman, right? If his mom is a strong woman, then yes, that boy will meet girls who are desperate for love, girls who will try go baya coding again, girls batla try go mo jesa, girls that will try to do all sorts of things, right? That same boy might even have a few issues initially, right? Maybe getting the job that he wants because his mom is a spiritual warrior. She's a soldier, right? So that boy is a manifestation of his father. That boy is his mother's gift to his dad, right? That boy, he will have women try to do this, but none of them will be successful. because mom is spiritually strong. And mom is tapped into her bloodline, and mom has reverence for her husband. Mom knows exactly what her role in the family dynamic is. Mom knows that this boy child is a gift to dad and dad's people, right? And mom then becomes the custodian, right, along with her ancestors, to make sure that no other negative or lower vibrational feminine energy comes in. So the girls will try to sacrifice him, but they're not going to be able to do it from a spiritual place. So how then would girls sacrifice this particular boy who becomes a man? Emotional guilt tripping, emotional clinginess, right? Taking on the role of his very strong mom and perverting that role. That's how a woman can lure a man to his downfall. By taking the lower vibrational version of his mom and becoming that. Right? And that's where I guess the enemy or the dark entities, that's where they would go and, point out. When you guys say that you guys get attacked by principalities through your children, that is very true. Right? If they don't get you in your marriage or your divorce or your baby daddy or your baby mommy, they will do it through your kids. Right? So this boy, he becomes a sacrifice in what sense? He gets women that guilt trip him. He gets women that emotionally manipulate him. Because somewhere subliminally, because he knows that he's got a strong feminine mother figure who is in charge of the feminine energy that governs him, because he sees his father as still alive, he doesn't understand that his mom actually is like a representation of like his female god, his feminine god. And actually, that boy should realize we're talking about family where mom and dad are married and everything's fine. That boy does not realize then that he is a gift from mom to dad's people, right? So mom is actually by definition his mom and his wife up and until she can find him somebody who is at her level, younger, to match it up. So he will feel that his mom is too strong as a person. And then he will run to the girl who's needy, to the girl who is a damsel in distress, because mom is like a bad bitch, right? And the girl who's the damsel in distress, the reason why she's a damsel in distress is because she's got some other issues from her home where maybe there was no father. So she's got a father wound. And this boy is indirectly creating a mother wound. I'll call it an inverse mother wound, right? She wants to make sure that she clings on to the first man who will give her quote unquote stability, right? So she says things and puts him in corners, right? To do things that will disobey his mother and eventually his father. That's a sacrifice. Let me make it a little bit clearer. A sacrifice is any situation where your energy is being taken from you and you are unaware. A sacrifice is any situation where your energy is being taken from you, right, and you are unaware. So the point of a sacrifice is that there must be an illusion. There must be an illusion, right? You, the person becoming sacrificed, like Isaac, you will go around holding the logs of wood, knowing that there's going to be a sacrifice, but not realizing you are the sacrifice. And how do you give consent to being sacrificed? When you allow people that are not energetically at your frequency to not only enter, but have more and more of a say in your life. Now, it's very interesting because for a sacrifice to happen, remember, you are already taught to give other people a say in your life. You're already taught to give other people a say in your life. This time with the sacrifice, it's slightly more potent because this person comes in with the intent to take from you. They come in with the intent to take from you. You are under an illusion of love, an illusion of future faking, an illusion of this man being whatever, this woman being beautiful, or she's got a big nyash, or whatever, or she's twerking for you, or whatever. You are under an illusion. Even if you're, let's say, we're talking about men now. If you're a successful man financially, you are under the illusion that your physical hard work, mulifatsing, is your work, and you are, yes, you might realize or not that your forefathers have granted this legacy to you for you to be the custodian, right? So that your children and the coming generations and your bloodline, badimo ba gago don't care as a man gore who do you marry, right? As long as you don't marry a witch. If badimo ba gago, if you are in a position to be influential, right, and physically, like financially influential, and o kgona go nyala basadi ba ba leng more than one, go for it. The problem becomes the illusion. Right? This boy, let's say he's now a man and he's done well just like his father. He is likely to become a sacrifice to a woman who is energetically not at his level, because according to him, the illusion is that he has made it and he can have any woman he wants. He can have her at any point, right? Sleep with her, it's fine. He is making alterations, this boy who becomes the man. He's making sacrificial or karmic alterations to the feminine energy in his own bloodline. So chances are that he will be sitting there, whether it's with a girlfriend or whether it's he marries a particular person, right? But in his mind, the illusion is his doing well. The illusion is the insignificance of this woman, or the insignificance of his spiritual power, his spiritual backing. And let me just be honest, most of the time, the most potent spiritual energy comes from feminine energy, right? So, sorry. So let's say this man now marries some bimbo, whatever the case, right? Who marries some woman who will eventually cheat on him, right? As he's carrying on the illusion, because it was never her illusion. She was never the custodian of that, right? She presented an illusion so that she could become part of something that she did not create. And this typically happens, let me say, with women who don't know their spiritual power, right? Then they have to create an illusion. They have to create a story. This is where you guys see sacrifices happening, right? Let's say wealthy guys going to strip clubs. Those women are giving these men in exchange for money. They're giving them an illusion. They're helping them to continue creating the illusion of a healthy feminine balance, feminine and masculine balance within themselves. But what these men are actually doing, they are sacrificing the bloodline, ancestral feminine, the ancestral woman, right? Be it their wife, be it their mother. This will catch up at a later stage. So a sacrifice always happens when you don't see, you the target, when you don't see what is happening. You guys get sacrificed at work, right? You guys say that you are creating your career, right? I'm all for creating careers. You guys are all for creating career. But when you guys go to work, you guys get so involved in the sacrificial, the ritualistic dynamics of the corporate world, that you guys are sitting, having conversations, exchanging energies with people whose bloodlines you know nothing about, right? With people, by Lungkore, probably some of them, their bloodlines, they have maybe connected with their ancestors, right? You are exchanging energy, information, whether it's in the form of gossip, whether it's in the form of your opinion of what you think of the next person. I don't like so and so, or you're going to connive your way to the top. That is an illusion, right? What is actually happening, and I want you guys to think about it. Why is it that the people who work the hardest don't get any return? Right? They don't get any return. You guys are under the illusion that you being there is adding value to the company. The company is like a God concept because it's a building full of different consciousnesses. You could invest in your own studies. You could align with your bloodline ancestors and find your Midas touch. Because when you find your Midas touch or you connect with your ancestors, changing careers or switching your careers up becomes very easy, right? But you guys don't do that. You quickly get involved in the petty dynamics, in the semantics of what is going on around you and what is actually happening there. You guys are spending time giving to your boss, right? You are giving, you are producing to your boss actually a substandard product, a substandard service, right? Because it is a service that is my friend is disturbing me. No wonder, go away. It is a service that you should be raking in from within you, right? It is a service that you should be raking in from within you. So you're giving your boss substandard service. Why? You are so involved with what's going on around you. And you are hoping that your boss, after you back and forth and connive and jump up and down, after you do that and set yourself up as a sacrificial trap, right? Whilst giving a like a lower level, a lower vibrational service, right? And your boss is obviously capitalizing on all of these semantics because then your boss keeps all of you guys in lower vibration, right? Keeps all of you guys in lower vibration, and the boss becomes quote unquote like the oppressor. And then you guys go to work and you're tired and you come back and you're working like hamster wheels. What is happening in the background as you are knocking off at 9, 10? Yeah, I'm going to take questions. What is happening in the background? Your kids are growing up without you, right? The dreams that you had or for whatever that you need to do, you don't have the energy to do that. You've been verbally exchanging low vibrational, nonsensical information with people that are looking to stab you in the back, and you are also looking to stab them in the back, right? Either that, or you're sitting in a victim mentality and you're hoping that you studying and staying in your corner means that somebody's going to recognize you one day. No one is going to do that. No one is going to do that. Talk to anybody that's in corporate, right? Corporate is one of the biggest places where you see ritualistic sacrifices being done. But corporate is also the one place where you guys see your ancestral Stunya spirits working. If you're connected to your Stunya spirits, your ancestral prayer spirits, water spirits, why must it be your ancestral water spirits? Because water is everywhere. Land or cultural ancestors, those are the ones that you serve to be able to fulfill certain things within the bloodline, within the home, right? But if you are now fixing Baba Kamuntung and aligning with your prophetic spirit, your water spirits, right? It's just that ribita sporofito or stunya because now, it's today, right? Water spirits, marine spirits, every bloodline, once the cultural ancestors, like Jesus, once the law, there's the sheep offerings and the goats, once the ancestral offerings have been done, every bloodline automatically moves to a higher frequency water spirit energy, right? So that's what's really moving you guys go corporate, right? That's what's moving you guys go corporate. I'll tell you now, I've done a few readings, not a few, many, where I tell people that there are certain seats, I just call them the seats of Jesus Christ, right? It's not even that you need to believe in Jesus Christ. I tell the people who see me that you need to be that position. You need to be the Jesus Christ. You need not only sort out the cultural stuff, you need not only connect with the cultural ancestors, but you need to find a way to convert that and tap into the water spirit element of your ancestors. That's the only way you're going to be able to sit on that position. Right? And this is also where now traditional healers will tell you, no, there was no sporofit or blah, 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 blah. There was always water spirits. Africans were primarily water spirits, right? And why? Because water spirits or the rivers, river banks, were where we were doing our merchanting, our trading. We became merchants along the riverbanks because that's where life is. That's where everybody comes. So corporate was literally the riverbank. Corporations, empires were built around bodies of water. So even we knew that anybody, even from a fundamental point of view, if you need to live, you need to go committee. And if we need to sell you something, if we need to create a demand, we better be where people are going to be. We've always had water spirits, right? And that's the combination of ancestral and water spirits, right? So if you guys don't realize things like that, then you get swallowed up, you get overwhelmed, and you feel underpaid, right? Only because your Stunya and your water spirits, your energy, your ancestors, they are telling you that you are getting involved in the semantics here and your children are growing up komuraho. You are married to a monster komuraho, and you are running away from fixing this marriage with the monster, be it a woman monster or a man monster, right? You are married to a Judas, somebody who's betraying your bloodline, right? Whether you're a man or a woman. You are ignoring all these things and you are now taking the energy, the water spirit energy, go corporate. So guess what? Guess what? Because what's happening in the home, what's happening on in your ancestral DNA, this is the foundation, just like Mosaic law for Jesus, right? If this is unsteady, that ends. And when somebody asks me now, what do I think of the New Testament? That is exactly the point. A New Testament can only come after an Old Testament. Corporate and you being a merchant can only come after you know your traditional bloodline. So you guys now, Aliboni, you are not only being sacrificed there for your power and your energy. Kamo, you've got a home situation with someone you shouldn't be married to, who sold you an illusion. Somebody who sold you an illusion. Somebody, right? Somebody whose family is of an inferior bloodline. Somebody whose family ba go yela ko dingakeng, right? Somebody, even if his family ba go yela ko dingakeng or him, somebody who doesn't value you, a man who will say yena ha bereki, a man who's got mommy issues, and he sits here and he talks about how women hate each other, right? You are married to another woman, right? A man who is more than happy to watch you go out and bust your ass and make him babies and come home and cook for him, right? If you're a man, you're married to a woman who's not energetically pouring into your house, who is not through prayers, through her efforts, through her advice. Because if this wife of yours is connected to her bloodline, ancestral water spirits, if your wife, then this woman is going to dream for you. This woman is going to know what your next move should be, right? This woman's prayers is going to make you as a man very influential, right? So you guys, we as people, men now want to build their masculinity in their work, and so do women, right? Men build their masculinity so that they can avoid the feminine, the flawed feminine in their own houses, so that they can avoid facing that they are sleeping with a witch, or they are sleeping with a woman who does not care for them, right? Or they are sleeping with a woman that they owe. This is why I guess bomkhulu bara ukara ke tlhoile bomkhulu, because that's where it starts. If you get a good woman, patala magadi, do right by that woman. Because when you do that, even if family, I know guys, we say musadi ha fetswe, right? We say that. And that is it's an act of goodwill from both sides of the parents, of the families. If you as the mkwenyana paid more than 60% ya magadi, that energy, that feminine energy, right? That feminine energy is like Eve and Lilith at the same time. A woman is meant to be equally kind but cruel, right? Women are more badass than men could ever be, right? Because we are creators of life and we are also destroyers, right? Men in general are consumers, right? So men consume, enjoy what has been created. If it has been destroyed, then a man cannot have it, period. Period. Right? If a woman aborts a man's child, that man cannot have that child molifatsing, period. Right? So that's where you guys now, banna, men, if now the family says, how Fatima Khadi as an act of goodwill, you better treat that woman like a god, because she is. And she will dream for you effortlessly. She will drive your career to the top effortlessly, because she's going to know, her bloodline would have shown her what is her contribution. Her bloodline will give to your bloodline their strongest points, their strengths, and not even their weaknesses. They will make sure that the weaknesses are weeded out, right? As you do this. So 2 sacrifices are happening in our lives. Re fana ka energy ya rona kwa, and then we give our energy to people. Ba ile gore they sell us an illusion. And that is the problem with becoming a sacrificial lamb, because what that does is that it eats your energy exponentially. The more you don't see the illusion, the more you are unsuspecting and open to the sacrifice, the more the sacrifice can continue, and larger quantities can be withdrawn from you, right? Be it by a boss, be it by a spouse, a partner, a relationship, anything, anyone, right? Eventually, that is why I said, when you feel that you need justice, The only time you realize you need justice is when you come to the awareness that you were sacrificed all along. Then you need Jesus. Because you've lost your way. You let somebody else override your energy. You have given your energy to other people willingly to do as they wish with it. All in an illusion. Right? And I guess that was the point of the whole humiliation ritual. Sacrifices, right, include humiliation rituals eventually. Right? Your husband, your wife who cheats blatantly, or who cheats around your circle of friends, or who cheats, you are well known. That is a humiliation ritual. You will never be able to come back from that. Right? Your wife, your husband, you will not be able to come back from that. Because that is a well-executed sacrifice. It's such an energetic sacrifice. It almost puts your stunya, your energy in the grave. And how do you see when people have been sacrificed? You can see it on their face. We will look sick. You will develop a rash from nowhere. If you're a woman, you'll have problems with your vagina, like your vagina will give you problems. If you're a man, good luck getting an erection. Good luck. Doesn't matter how young you are, right? Another thing is if you're a man and you are hoping for boy children and you're getting stream of girl children and not a single daughter, not a single son, you are under a sacrifice. Hey, uze nenye straight. Uze nenye. So that's what it is. You giving away, right? I'm going to speak about the boy whose male figure is absent. You giving your power away to someone else. Be it a job. And this type of ritual, it is so hard to undo. This type of sacrifice, especially one between partners, one between people who sleep with each other, because you guys don't have the same ancestral God, right? When one of you's been sacrificed, or one of you's become like the sacrifice is complete, right? Yeah, humiliation is part of the sacrifice, and I'm going into the initiation. When you have gone into such an energetic sacrifice that your whole life now, you are so vested in the illusion, because the real truth of what's going on in your life is so unbearable. Then that's where you guys see your ancestors asking for blood offerings when you guys have been a religious water spirit ancestry all along. That's when you guys start to see that. That's when you guys start to dream of goats, right? Your ancestors are trying to take, remember I said in previous classes, when they ask for a goat or a blood offering, they know that creates chaos. Right? They're trying to create a primitive version of the bloodline. They're trying to summon primitive energies in the bloodline. Because most you are energetically depleted. If you are born with 10 billion bonus or aura points, no CD4 equal class, yeah, the aura points. Then what do they say for you to power up? They now ask you for a goat, a sheep. That is why some of you guys, you're coming from prophetic families where there's church and you guys are wondering why now by Babatla Budi and what. It's because of that. Those things, the Pudito, they're just meant to create chaos. Right? They are trying by all means, your ancestors, to sort of pull you out. Right? By jolting you and by jolting the primitive ancestors within your bloodline. Right? And here's the truth about blood. Here's the truth about blood. How tshwara madi, o tsholla madi, where another person o tshollang madi, you slaughtering, right? The person o tshollang madi, you're not only opening portals, but you are also reawakening dark contracts. Right? You are reawakening dark contracts. But sometimes it needs to be done because in any case, the entities that you have that you've given a precedence to in your life, with your knowledge, most of the time without your knowledge, those entities are vicious because they are not within the control of your bloodline. So your ancestors ask you to make a blood sacrifice. What they do is, it's like chemotherapy. They destroy everything. They sort of make you die to yourself in your own bloodline. So you become like the Jesus. You die by virtue of handling blood. Blood was never a way for us to connect and ask for blessings. Right? Blood was never a way to ask for blessings. Blood, whenever we slaughtered sheep or whatever, a man slaughtered the livestock that he had as a thanksgiving. Only black people retain thanksgiving. Right? But now, that is why you're finding people, we don't have cows and goats. That is why now. Right? What would be the point? They don't want money, right? They want the primitive stuff to destroy you and the contract, to kill old versions of you. They need to kill the version of you that was that found that illusion enticing. So essentially what badimo ba gago do is that ha o tlhaba ba go bolaya le wena. We can say what we want to say. That is the truth behind why Ntwaso doesn't work. That is the truth behind it. Right? When you slaughter a goat, you die too. Big parts of you and all old versions of you, right, have died. You die. You drink the blood, not only do you die, and you inherit now dark energies from your family. Right? So that is what is a sacrifice. I think I want to maybe speak about it because I think I want to speak about it in practical terms. Somebody was asking me now, how do you avoid a sacrifice? The best way to avoid a sacrifice in a twisted way is to follow the 10 commandments. I'm the Lord your God, and this is your mom and dad, by the way, or your highest descended ancestor that you can only experience through your parents. I'm the Lord your God, you shall have no other God but me. Your mom and dad, if they find out you're in a toxic relationship, toxic marriage, and they still encourage you to stay, you should actually, as a way to override, because you're realizing that they have made certain sacrifices on their side, so they don't quite know the ancestral gravity behind where you come from, right? But Dimu then will ask you at your parents' house. But if they're understanding, go back to them. I'm the Lord your God, you shall have no other God but me. You shall never use my name in vain. Part of how you guys get sacrificed, right? Using your God's name, using your ancestors' name in vain is, again, making oaths, making promises to these very people that are energy vampires. Making oaths, making promises, making prayers for these Satanists that you guys are married to or dating. Making promises, making prayers for them. Using your ancestors' God's name in vain. In vain meaning for use for nonsense. Right? And you are calling now your ancestors' God for nonsense. Right? Whereas your ancestor does not want that. Right? Third one is honor the Sabbath. Have a day. Have a day where you connect with your people. Have a day when you connect with your people. Your Sabbath could be a Saturday, could be a Wednesday, could be anything. Honor your Sabbath. Have a day when you are making prayers. Do this religiously. Do this religiously, right? And on that day, decide for whatever you're going to pray about, whatever you're going to connect, whoever you're going to connect with, regardless of the situation that you're in. On the day of your Sabbath, you are honoring and dedicating to the water spirits, right? And to your ancestors. Or I'm here to venerate you guys. I'm here. Why must you do? What's this 10 commandments? The whole point of it is to avoid becoming a sacrificial lamb. But also, even if you have been sacrificed and your energy has become depleted, then these practices is where your ancestors now can leverage, right? The easiest way, it's the most painful though. The easiest but the most painful way to come out of a sacrificial lamb situation where you've been sacrificed is to face the illusion for what it was. Realize that, okay, I was stupid for believing that. That, I don't know why as people we find it hard. We find it so hard to make peace with that. I was stupid and I was foolish. I didn't know enough. Right? So I fell for the illusion. And that is actually what you guys call the forgiveness of sins or repentance. It's to say to your ancestors, I fell for an illusion. I truly believed what I was doing was right. And I see now that it was foolish. That is the first thing. Stop running from the illusion. Stop trying to create another illusion to avoid being the sacrificial lamb here. Because once you've been sacrificed by someone, you are a sacrificial lamb. It's done. That person has depleted you, right? That is the first thing. Second thing now is to ask for help, right? If you are physically not able to be at home, go outside. Go outside, or even in your job, at your job, be outside. Ask for help. Candle or not. At a body of water where all the merchant energies are, right? Go there. You will still be getting lost, but it's going to be less getting lost. Let me say it like that. The hardest, probably the hardest part is to accept that heartbreak is part of life. And to accept that person to leave without you needing justice. That is the shortest, quickest way to get out of the sacrifice. Asking for help in terms of praying, asking for help, your ancestors, asking for help from God. If you feel that you've been wronged, ask for help from Jesus, because his job is to bring justice. Asking for help from your family in terms of if they can physically support you, asking for help from as many people as you can, right? But this is the most painful way, but the best way to gain your energetic bank balance to a positive and withdraw your energy from that person immediately. The best way is to keep quiet, block your energy transaction with that person, experience the pain, feel like a moron, go through the motions of feeling like you miss them, go through your anger, go through your sadness, go through whatnot without talking about it when it's happening, right? Without trying to scream at the person who sacrificed you. Because guess what? They don't give a shit. They knew what they were doing, right? Tap water is fine. Definitely tap water is fine when you're asking for help, right? And a clear glass. Without needing to scream at them, without needing to fight them, without needing to connect with them, right? We're going to talk about the money thing. Without any of that, you being silent, bringing your sovereignty back to you, bringing your sense of identity back to you, harnessing your energy back to you, right? Coming back and becoming your own Messiah, right? Your own Messiah. right? And the pain and all of that, you saying, you know what, I would rather die than go to the person who sacrificed me, right? Not even the pain and humility. Yeah, it's literally what it is, right? You must have a sense of, I would rather die than go back to that person who sacrificed me, no matter what's going on. And that's where the difficult part is, because sacrifices are mixed with humiliation rituals, which are meant to bring your energy and your sense of self and who you are down. So your job will go down, you will not make as much money, you won't have faith in yourself, all of that, right? So you've got to deal with the illusion, the ego that's been created on your behalf by way of the sacrifice and the constant illusion and the sacrifice. You've got to deal with this. And at the same time, this part where you are quiet and disengaging abruptly, that part is very painful on you initially, but it's going to become very, very painful to the person who had been sacrificing you. Why? They got so used to the taste of your energy. They got so used to the taste of your energy, they even forgot who they were. And again, sacrifice and theft is the same thing. Sacrifice and theft is the same thing. If you really think about it, even the people who name drop that they know so and so, or people who like to affiliate with certain people, all that they are doing is that they're trying to ride the wave off of that person's energy, right? So that's another way. So in your case, this is painful. You withdraw completely. Completely. Almost as if you don't see that person. That is exactly what Jesus did. He withdrew from the situation and spent hours of his grief dying and speaking to his Our Father. He knew that to engage anybody other than to say what is positive and good would be now lessening the leverage of the sacrifice. The longer you are quiet, the longer you are now putting action, the more you're pulling your sovereignty in. And that person has been so used to the benefit of you. Remember, before they officially made you a sacrifice, they took you for granted. They thought that you're an idiot. And that's how they sold you an illusion. Right? They took your love, your unconditional openness, right? And they thought the illusion they sold you was the reason. But that was not the reason. The reason was love, no matter the outcome. So when you withdraw that, then you slowly bleed the person who was sacrificing you. You bleed them dry of your energy and their own. And their own. They are left to deal with themselves. They are left to question themselves. They are left to see themselves self-destruct because they were so used to your energy, right? This kind of works for the length of the relationship. If your relationship, your marriage, or whatever, your job situation was 5 years, you can't expect to have withdrawn your energy within 6 months. It'll take you about a year or two, right, to build your sovereignty, depending on how long you're willing to cut yourself loose from the illusion, right? And here's the problem, Gadi, illusions and becoming a sacrificial lamb. One illusion the psychology of a person tries to replace one illusion with another. Let me give you guys an example. Let's say you are working, and this is something we can all relate to. We're working, we are knee deep in debt. We don't like our job, right? Because of the semantics that are going on over there, and we are hoping and praying to God, or we don't know, or we can go up the corporate ladder. An illusion going on there, right? And then, but to feed the illusion, we've got credit cards. To dress a certain part, right? Yeah, well, we do need to dress a certain part, right? To speak to, the clothing is meant to be for your own affirmation, right? The outfits are meant to drive you and your energy and your frequency in a certain direction. That's the point of clothing and expensive cars. It's supposed to create a mindset shift, right? So actually, when you're taking a loan, you are making an investment, right? It's like you're making an investment on yourself. What are we taking our loans for? You have the car, which is supposed to help you feed your own inner illusion within of your self-identity. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, right? But you cannot be driving to work, got a Mercedes-Benz and a car that you're paying 20,000 Rand, and you want to be involved in the semantics of the nonsense going over there. Because what you're doing is you're creating contrasting energy. You've made a sacrifice on yourself. It's meant to boost your morale. It's meant to boost your frequency, right? You owe the bank, right? So money is energy. There's energy that you've sort of requested, but only to go and feed another energy. Yes, some other nonsense. So that is something that applies to all of us, right? Where we love sometimes to avoid an illusion, right? You are now at work being miserable, and now you're buying the car only to make yourself feel accomplished. And that is not the point of the Mercedes-Benz. The point of the Mercedes-Benz was for you to stand in the mirror every morning and say, I drive a fucking bad bitch's car. So I need to pay 20,000 Rand. And I'm not going to play with nobody. Whether Tanziki go rapela in tongues or what, I'm going to do it now. Right? Whether I'm going to do it now. Where you get to work and certain people now, it's so easy for you to be mean and say, no, buzz off. So that you can reserve your energy. Now you've got an illusion here for that illusion. And that illusion, there's another illusion now in the background. No, wena wa nyalwa, gantle, blah, 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 una chelete, blah, monna go etsang. So a lot of times, really bad, unfortunately, and that's what maybe makes us struggle to get off the sacrificial lamb wheel, because for how you ended up becoming so well executed, so well crucified, was that there were levels and levels and levels and levels and levels of illusions built around you, right? You created levels and levels and levels of a fake life. So when you must disengage, you don't know what is the real illusion now. Because it's hard for you now to say, okay, wait, no, let me start here. Let me go over there. Like, this is nonsense. I'm going to say this. When I left my marriage, the first year was probably the worst year of my life. I could literally afford, but I think I've said this before I even talk about me. Another way to end a sacrifice, is to have a direct, bold, and confrontational conversation with the person who sacrificed you. Now, this person, because they sacrificed you, all that they need to do is tap into your negative emotions. So they're going to try to stir your pot, right? They're going to try to say and do funny things to make you feel less than, right? However, the more you stand and the louder and the more you will say it in a public place, you end the sacrificial ritual almost immediately. Almost immediately, without making noise, being calm, right? But the only thing is, when you speak to that person directly, being calm, right? You are dissipating. It's like you're balancing out the energies between the two of you, right? That's what you're doing. You're not going to be able to bleed them dry of your energy. And in actual fact, being quiet does that. Pulls them in, bleeds them dry, right? It makes their spiritual bank account empty, right? Makes their spiritual bank account empty, right? Right. So Gogo is asking that the workers and what scenario? If you are having a Mercedes, right? You've decided, okay, I'm jumping into this, right? As you buy your car, this is where now we go back to you connecting with your ancestors, you connecting with your innermost, your ancestors, your people, right? Firstly, to get guidance on whether should I buy the Mercedes now or not, right? And to be able to do that, you must be able to connect with your traditional ancestors and eventually your junior ancestors. So everything that you request, you must consult your people, not go to a healer. Do your prayers, do your whatever. I need a car, right? You start your request that way. I need a car. So you're going to buy your car. You're going to talk about your car, looking at how much you're making, right? So let's say you're making 20,000, right? Let's say you're making 20,000 and you need a car, right? As you are speaking and praying and speaking to your ancestors, there's something that they're going to ask you to do, right, on the end that might enable a bonus for a deposit at the end of the year. There are so many possibilities, right? But in exchange to you saying you need a car or to you saying you need a Mercedes, what you should do from your ancestors, for your ancestors, is completely disengage from semantics, sacrifice the friendships at work, make those people your sacrifice, right? Come into work as you're waiting for your Mercedes-Benz, as you're trying to get your Mercedes-Benz, come into work, whether it's by taxi or whatever, come into work, disengage from any conversation that is not helpful to you at your job. Disengage from pity parties at your job. Disengage from kumbayas at your job, right? You are actually helping your ancestors to withdraw as much energy that is supposed to be coming from you. Because whenever even me now, as I'm teaching, I'm emitting energy. Whenever you share your ideas, your thought processes, your connections, your emotions, you are emitting energy, right? And sometimes it's not necessary for you to emit energy with people that that happens a lot. Sometimes it's not necessary for us to emit energy unnecessarily. Sacrifice those people then, right? As you're waiting for the Mercedes, right? So withdraw. And not withdraw kala gore you are being snacks. Withdraw kala gore those people are insignificant. Because now they become like pawns on your chessboard. Come home, do the prayer work, right? Withdraw kamoli. Save up energy. The next step, if you've got friends, even if they don't work with you, you've got friends, linked gossips and this and that, that are always talking. People that are always talking, withdraw. Right? If you are in a situation with somebody, too much, withdraw. If you can't get out of that situation, withdraw your energy from that person. Too much. So if, let's say, you are married, you are asking Gogo, and your husband is a serial cheater, withdraw. Withdraw from talking about Tabataketsamjol. Put controls in place. Okay, we're going to use a condom. That's it. Right? All you're doing is you are creating your own ball of energy where your ancestors, it's like they will knock on every open portal because you have created like a seal around yourself. They will knock on every portal, every open portal, right? To make sure whether it's another job or it's a promotion or or they want you to give them something before they can do something for you in gratitude. One of these three things is going to happen. One of these things is going to happen, right? Like I said, when I left my house, that was the worst year of my life because my children were my everything and I'd already withdrawn. So nikis nataba, right? A lot had happened in my life. And it's true, Hanakawen. A lot had happened in my life, but I was fortunate that for about a good 10 years in my marriage, I had already withdrawn my energy. So I was not open to open fights. I had a lot of time when I gave my ex-husband time to vent and talk whatever and do whatever. And I only came back to ever converse with him in kindness. I don't know if I knew it consciously at the time, but that was me creating the type of energy to become the spiritualist that I am. Okay, fast forward. First year was bad, right? People were asking me out first year, but I knew. I remember I went out to a news cafe and I met like a follower of mine and he's doing very well. And, he was indirectly asking me out. I knew that I was going to shit bricks if I'm going to sleep with this guy. Not because he's doing well or anything, but because energetically I had too many open portals. I was energetically bleeding. at a rapid rate, right? I didn't know how to do cord cuts. I didn't know how to block anything because I was in pain and always in court, right? And being harassed. That was the year. However, this is how my ancestors restored my energy. They asked me, I think twice or three times in that year, to have these seminars for other people. So that's where now I'm preaching and blah, 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 right? What was I doing? Everybody who came to the seminar was coming to give me energy. My first seminar, everybody who came was not aware, but that seminar, the angels and the ancestors opened the door for me because at the time I was energetically depleted. Everybody who attended that first seminar, within a week or two before the seminar, I managed to get my first place, right? So I was out there planning the seminar, and that's how I got a place out of a very destitute situation. Fast forward, met a couple of people, and sugar daddy, because I was energetically in the dumps. I was physically sick, right? From the energetic bleed out, right? And I could not close those portals because it was too many, right? And again, I was so attached to the illusion of me being the perfect mom and my children living with me, right? I was so attached to that idealism, to that ideal. I was so attached to it. I couldn't let it go, right? I was so attached to, the ideas that because I'm spiritual, things are supposed to happen for me in a certain way. I was so attached to being dangerous. Yeah, I've seen a lot of miracles, for people who've come to see me over the years. I've seen a lot of miracles. But I was so attached to the miracles, right? Forgetting that now at the time when the miracles were happening, I had created like an auric field protection of myself. Now that protection, that field auric protection was no longer there psychologically because I was at war with somebody, right? Year 2 came about, got worse. Year 3, last year, 2024 was the worst year of my life. But in the last 3 years, I managed to create my own sovereignty, my own healing out of an empty, leaking cup by closing out and refilling my energy. God, these lives. And by avoiding relationships, let me say, with men, no matter how poor and how destitute I was, no matter how much I needed a savior. Because I knew deep down that it does not matter who this man will be. He will look at me and he will think that I want him under the illusion that I'm desperate and I'm out of options. And I knew that that's what he will do. It does not matter how pretty I am, right? Every man at that point was destined. That's the funny thing, was destined to bring me down to ruins because I hadn't fully stepped out of the illusion, right? And the illusion was I can survive in a car. Right? The illusion was the illusion was you need to be in a house. You need to be in a way. You need to be you need to have your car. Those are all illusions. I had to lose all of that. Right? How do you close sexual desire? You cried out. I think the first 2 years they said I was not even allowed to DJ. The first 2 years was so bad. Like I would get dreams. I'd get dreams, but no, we don't want that. And then I realized that what I thought was sexual energy that helped me to become more productive, I didn't need it. I didn't need it. I needed to close all the doors, right? Because I needed to find my own sovereignty. I needed to find my own feet. Did someone else, other people help me? A whole bunch of women, right? A whole bunch of women, a whole bunch of people who came for readings. Energetically, I got so much help because every other portal was getting closed and these women were pouring into me. Regardless of my home, regardless of what I was not allowed to, regardless of everything, right? And as that happened, I got to heal and heal through them. I got to heal through them. 3 years later, got asked out by a very nice person. And now I know. As much as now it's not an illusion because I can see what's going to happen, but it's only going to happen on condition that he chooses that. On condition that he chooses that. And very recently I had to say to myself, oh no, wait, I may be a prophet and being able to see into the future, but he's got to choose that. So I need to pull my energy back. I need to come back into my own sovereignty. Otherwise, I'm asking for the guy that I've just met to make me a sacrificial lamb because I'm still very, very naively open and loving. That's one thing that I've told myself I'm going to do it, right? But at the same time now, I'm saying, okay, now we've got boundaries, right? I don't know. Does someone want to ask a question? I actually want to take a break. I think I'm done talking. 2 hours go for like you. Yes, sis. Would I say that losing and leaving jobs is a result of an illusion or disobedience? It's actually a bit of both, because disobedience comes from a very big illusion, and an illusion on you. You are your own false prophet. Losing and leaving jobs, you are your own false prophet. But most of the time, you've got somebody helping you with a limiting belief. Somebody is helping you sacrifice yourself. It's not inherent in us to be unhappy. A sacrifice, yes, this will definitely be on YouTube. A sacrifice ultimately means that when you find something out, you are so displeased. You feel like something's been taken away from you, right? You are beside yourself. You feel powerless. That's when you know you've been sacrificed. You develop anxiety. You develop all sorts of things, depression, right? Well, I mean, if an illusion tied to alcohol abuse is weighed the same as sexual desire, of course they are, right? The only thing is that with alcohol abuse, you might find that in your bloodline, there are some kind of mental health issues. Like in my ancestry, I'm sure my mother had bipolar disorder. Like, I'm sure of that. Like Linna, for those who've met me, you all know, right? And in my ancestry, they told me that they've got a long history with mental health issues and neurodivergent issues. And what my great-grandmother said to me was that they've been self-medicating with alcohol. And okay, well, I was told not to drink so that I can see certain things and stay away from illusions. But for my ancestors, and I think for most of you guys as ancestors, the biggest illusion that I needed to get rid of was that I must not interact and exchange in energy sexually with anyone. Because I believe at the time, I used to have over the years of being married, I used to have a sense that having sex just makes me more productive, because I did not care for the person that I was with. I completely sealed my energy away. So for me, being there was just for that and taking care of my kids. That is as far as my marriage went for a good 10 years. So what they needed to undo was me using sexual energy like as a masculine woman, because I'd become masculine. I was very productive. I was making a lot of money. I was always busy, right? And that was the only thing that I could get from him. That's the only thing I cared to get anyway, right? But in my case, then they said to me, what about you, the feminine, the love? So when I left, they said to me, if you ever have sex with someone that you do not love in your life again, we will punish you and will block elements to your gift. So that's how I was told to just sit still. If I don't truly love that person, never. If I don't truly love that person, I must not attempt. Right? Has it helped me to sacrifice other people, other guys? Yes, it has. I won't lie. So there has been people, now that I've grown up, now that I've put parts of myself together, it has helped me for people to ask me out and I say, no, you're not my type. Yes, it has. As vicious as that is me also saying to the universe, no, this is what no. That's not what I want, no. So often for the last 2 years, it has been a series of, okay, no, you're not for me. Hi, but no, you're not for me. Let's get, buzz off. It has helped me to do that, right? The more blatant and the more bold I've become in saying, no, you are not for me. You're not my type. not like I've got anyone to come back to, right? The more blatant I've become, the more rude I've become, the more direct I've become, the more mean I've become, the more I've been able to preserve my own energy, right? The more I've been able to preserve my own energy, because now I know that I will only talk. I talk a lot. I talk a lot to the people I love. Fail. And maybe because of the struggle of learning to stay home and working for rent without food, knowing that I can start an OnlyFans page, but choosing not to sacrifice my gift and choosing not to sacrifice these voices, because I knew that if I can do that, then it's going to be the end of my life. I might get some money from Mr. So-and-so, right? So I knew all the hot places in Joburg where to go. I might meet Mr. So-and-so, go kai. I might do that. But I don't know what that Mr. So-and-so is coming with, considering all the energetic leakages that I was having. So now it has become easy to say, particularly to men, no. Literally. If and I give you my number and whatever, listen, the moment you text me, I'm going to send you a message. Right? The boy with the male figure who's absent. How does he become sacrificed? He tries to be his mommy's hero. And then he thinks that every woman is like his mommy. Right? He starts to have control issues. So it can go in two ways. If his mom is not living the way that he thinks she should live because she's hustling, then he becomes controlling. Right? And then he needs to go and find a woman who's going to give him love, give him energy. He needs to find that. So normally that boy becomes the one who sets up the initial sacrifice. But here's the thing, as a man, it's dangerous because a lot of women are spiritual. And it's so funny because the emptiness or the need for a mommy who's solid will guide this man to a woman who's coming from a very profound, very deeply spiritual bloodline. When he gets there, he doesn't have enough mahadi to marry her. He's overambitious. And if she chooses to get married to him for love, they will both get punished by this woman's bloodline ancestors. They will have years of suffering, struggle financially. They will struggle financially as a couple. They'll have babies and nothing more, right? This man won't be able to elevate. At the same time, what's happening is that he has made this woman a sacrifice because he needs her to fill a void, right? And because now his mom was not acting the right way according to him, he's going to become very controlling about what the woman in his life does, right? Because he's got a fear of being left. He's got a fear of abandonment, right? Now he's got to orchestrate her every move, and he's using energy. Also, being the one who controls and the one who's creating the sacrifice is equally tiring, right? He's got to do all of that. And he will do all of that only to one day get sacrificed by that same woman, because that woman is going to realize her worth one day. Whether it's through idlozi or she goes and twasses or what. And that woman will actually withdraw and deplete his energy even more because he was already suffering when he met her. So he is setting himself up for a sacrificial death trap, right? That woman will make sure energetically that he is out on his luck. And it doesn't matter who he can go to. Let's say mom and dad, okay, there's no father, but mom is mom who's trying, right? Now, he must be wary of women that can guilt trip him and put themselves in damsel in distress situations, and where he feels like he sees his mother in these women. That's going to be a problem, because that guy is going to be an overgiver. His funds are going to run out, because that man needs to be around women who make him feel a certain way, right? He's looking for a bit of stability, but a bit of fun. He can't quite decide, right? Because he's looking for a mom meets girl, wife, right? He's looking for that. And the dynamic becomes a little bit muddy, because a wife should typically be like the saint and the sinner in one, right? The wife should be the saint and the sinner in one, right? In, like I say, because feminine energy creates and destroys. So the wife must have a very clear mandate. But that man, where the father is absent, he doesn't have a framework, right? And yes, he believes his mom. He believes in his mom because he has seen her struggle. But a part of him also looks down upon her for failing to keep a man. It's so funny how men and women, regardless of whether we are daughters and sons or women and mothers and fathers, how we think alike, right? And then, right, what about the men who are overprotective of their sisters? My brother is so overprotective of me, right? But he treats his girlfriend bad, right? And the only reason why my brother is so overprotective of me is because I'm an extension of our mom. And my brother had a very frank relationship with our mom and with our grandmother. So my brother is overprotective because our mom never raised us. I'm almost identical to our mom, right? Whenever our mom came through, that was that. His father was not there at all. That was not that. My brother's father was not there at all. So to my brother, I'm an extension of our mother. That's it. It's so funny because he dates girls that look completely opposite to me, which is so crazy. And then he treats them bad, right? So as a man without a father, it becomes very hard to navigate, because you must be careful not to meet a woman who is in her masculine energy, right? You must be careful not to meet a woman who's going to try to sacrifice you. And this is going to be a woman who's going to demand things, give you ridiculous dikoloto, give you ridiculous things, give you ridiculous responsibilities. You know, also munyali or whatever, give you ridiculous responsibilities. And you are not able to say no. That's when you know. Spiritually and aligned and blessed relationships, like you, are they difficult? Only in the beginning. And it's only because I said, I think it was last week, that spiritual marriages are arranged marriages. And the timing of those relationships, the timing of how things unfold, it's very important. Badimu can let you meet your person months in advance, and you guys are just dilly-dallying, doing nothing for a while because there's a certain time. What I would suggest, I was actually thinking about that today, Hori. How do you check with your ancestors if you're being sacrificed? Light a white candle. I think it's the prayer that people say. You ask God, Hori, if somebody is for you. Light a candle and make that prayer, even your ancestors. You know, Hori is so and so for me. And give it a few days. If whoever you are with whether you're a man or a woman, if whoever you are with, you have given to them energetically or financially or emotionally, and when you need help from them or when you need reciprocation from them, they are not doing that, you are in the middle of a sacrifice. You are in the middle of a sacrifice. If the man you are engaged to is taking all his money, you're in the middle of a sacrifice. You are in the middle of a sacrifice. And you're the one buying food and sleeping with him, and you are in the middle of a sacrifice. Right? If there's no reciprocation, then a sacrifice is most likely happening. And I'm tired of talking. Get 2 hours straight. Kibua. Have a good night. Ask Jesus for help. Ask Jesus for help. Maybe don't light the candle. Right? Don't light the candle. Kopa Jesu. But like I said, what also helps is to get out of the immediate environment, because every environment, every house where you are in, like engaging with people, even Lin Namo, Kidula, there's a certain energy, there's an aura about this house, right? So let's say you were visiting me or you're staying with me for a few months. The aura of this house is my aura, the aura of my ancestors. If who you are is not in alignment with the aura of my house, I'm going to be very irritated with you. I'm going to be very irritated with you. And we're going to have very weird clashes. And Luena, if you don't feel like you belong and you feel like you must tiptoe around, then go and ask Jesus, go nothing, or at a garden or at a beautiful place. Go and ask Jesus there. Right? If it's in your own apartment, your person, don't leave your clothes here, right? I think maybe we should continue the sacrifice thing next week, but I think you guys should ask, right? Patience, ikai, like I'm saying, but to what extent? To what extent? Because energy doesn't have to be money. Energy can be support, can be emotional support, can be all sorts of things. So if when, and you know what, we don't like to say this. I want to get it for now. It was hard, right? But I had to realize that no matter how pretty I am, so I think as people, as women, if you are coming out of a breakup, stay alone for a while. Regroup until you feel like you can get out of the house. Until you look good enough for yourself to get out of the house, right? And until you don't feel guilty about anything. You don't owe anybody anything. But also if you're a man and you have been sacrificed energetically, chances are ona chelete. Sit with yourself. Unless you tlo reka 100 rand go wherever, go town, right? Period. Sit tight with your God. Alcohol, don't drink because you can't afford it, right? And it's not in a bad way. Those are things that I was told. Don't you dare drink that. And I got sick and I asked why. And I mean, I love Savannah, okay? And they said to us, no, we want you to drink it with bottles of wine. I think it's about 400. God, I can't afford it. If you're going to drink alcohol, you're going to drink the proper stuff. That's it. And I was not shut that proper stuff. Stay home. I know, enjoy Savannah Gogo. For you, it's fine. Savannah Niki Rata and Niki Inwahut. Savannah was so indicative of my marriage. Right? Prayers upon your father. Remudimwa your surname. So go ahead and mudima makubet. Mudimwa makubet. With time, but I think we spoke about the Messiah in you. We'll talk more about Jesus and whatnot. Let me see. When your ex, you clash at your place and not hers. I mean, okay. What are you guys doing? Are y'all planning on getting engaged? What are y'all doing? Let's on. On the one end, by her sleeping over at your house regularly, she's putting herself under your authority spiritually. So whatever that happens in the relationship, energetically, she'll be the one who's sacrificed. She'll be the one who's sacrificed. Because she left the place feeling to come to. She's going to be butthurt. She's going to be very hurt, right? I don't know about, I don't know what you guys are doing. If she's just sleeping over, it's fine, or I guess, But if she finds things out, she's going to be really hurt, right? And then obviously she's going to have to go back to her place, and it'll be very hard for her to find herself at her place because she's never acclimatized herself with her place. But on the bigger scale, indirectly, you guys are messing around with each other's energies because you're creating a false safety. A false safety. Create a false safety. You are husband and wife in the house. What if one of you guys decides, no, but I don't want to be here? Little kamana no for nothing. Right? Ella Bella, we're going to talk about you dating other people. Let me park this class. Next week we finish it off. Right? We're going to talk about, I want to talk to you guys next Saturday. We're going to talk about this. I think we're going to talk like engage, right? I'm definitely going to put this on YouTube. I'm going to upload it tonight, and I'm going to do it. It was very nice, Gogo Tinyuko. It was nice having you. I'm going to move back to Instagram in a few weeks for the dream interpretations. Energy ya mo TikTok, it's a king. Have a great night. Next Saturday, you guys talk. You guys ask questions. I actually wanted to speak to the lady who said she's having like a disciplinary hearing at work. I wanted to talk to her about that and sacrificing. And what to do when you're the one who's done shit. I think next week we're going to talk about that. When you're the one who's done the crap, right? When sacrifice it, how to run away from that. Have a great evening. Love and light to you guys. See you guys next Saturday. See you on Tuesday for dream interpretation on TikTok, and then next Saturday. Yeah, Nkulu Africa. Have a great evening. Love and light.